48-hour notice.
Hello, ma'am.
Concerned about that.
Hello, sir.
Okay.
I don't have an agenda for your meeting today, but I do have a draft.
Okay.
And this document is exactly the same as the one we did last year.
Last year. This is the document for the funding of the Federation.
It's, that is correct. So the only changes in this document compared to last year are that 2014 was changed to 2015 and 2015 was changed to 2016. There were a couple of formatting corrections made in the document. I think the only other change will be in the Federation's budget, and if you'd like to go to the very last page of the document, their budget is there.
Same amount we gave them last year.
It's the exact same amount, they've rearranged it a little bit. They've made some changes, they've reduced contractual services, they've eliminated travel and training and reduced other costs. And Mr. Traney, it's my understanding that the office manager for the Federation talked to you about some of the changes that the Federation was making to rearrange some budget issues around. And they did increase personnel services. And my recollection were some of the changes, they were going to try to reduce mailing, but they actually increased newsletter distribution here because there are some councils that still use mail. They want to increase email, which they have been doing for several years that we've been working with them. They eliminated a CPA. They had a very expensive CPA.
And now they have one for free.
So that seemed to be a good
My
decision.
community council president happens to be CPA, so he's volunteered to do it for nothing.
That's really nice.
It's even better.
And then they reallocated some of those funds to personnel services, and they're going to hire another quarter-time person to be in the office. They thought that's one of the things that has been an ongoing concern. I haven't heard the concern quite as much this year. I think we've all heard it in past years about someone being in the office in the summer and over the holidays. But anyway, that's part of how they're going to solve this, is they're going to get
Barbara, is the Federation meeting the requirements of the contract as far as you're concerned?
Yes. If you would like to take a look, if you look at the previous page right in front of the budget, page 22 and page 21, we added this last year to the contract. And so finally, what we did was the reporting mechanism. So this is what their report has to include. And the report now matches the services that they're to provide to the municipality. And so the bottom line is we want to see the minutes for the board of directors meetings. We want an update on the technical services they provide. We want to know, are they helping the community councils? Mr. Steele, you asked in the prior meeting about the list, and if you look at on the quarter report on page 21, item number C is an updated current listing or representative to the board and the location on the website where this information is available. So that's one of the things I admit as the clerk I've even struggled with, like trying to find the information on their website. And now they have to provide it to us quarterly and they have to tell us where it's located. My gripe was kind of that it was a PDF, and it would have been really nice if it was in an a different format so that you could just go into that website and pull those that data and then just cut and paste it somewhere. But because it's a PDF, it doesn't copy well. But anyway, they've been working on that stuff, so they're providing that contact information. And then even down at F, where there was this information on reasonable office hours. Again, that was a problem in the past, and that's why we're making them report on what their office hours are. So in my opinion, they have met the terms of the contract. One of the other things that we changed on page 20, their reports are due on the 23rd of the month. So we make them due on the 23rd and they get paid on the 30th. And before they weren't in sync. And so now we've got them in sync. They get their stuff in, we'll pay them. So it's just working much better.
And I attend their meetings monthly. On the third Wednesday of every month, they have a 2-hour meeting. And sometimes Amy's been showing up.
Most of the time, I missed last month.
You weren't there last month.
I missed
and-
last month.
And it was noticed that you weren't there. Their comment was, could you get out here and send her back?
Did this take as much time to negotiate as the last one?
Oh, Lord have mercy.
No, because there's no changes to it.
There's no change. In fact, that's the reason we're not going to make a recommendation from this group of people, because this is already in our budget. And I was there, Dick Tremaine is now the president of the Federation. The last one, she quit personal issues, so Dick Tremaine, as vice president, became president of it.
Now, it seemed to me that the Federation had 1.5 bodies at the moment, and you said you're adding a quarter, or did they just have one and they're adding a quarter?
I think you are correct that they have 1.5 or 1.25, and they're adding a quarter, so they'll be at
1 3/4.
right. And actually, I'm not positive that the office manager, that Mark Butler, is full time.
I don't think he is, because he likes
Right.
the time off, that's my understanding.
Should we give them the money, and it's up to them as to
The-
how they.
The point is that the
It needs
office
to be
needs to be
council.
open, it was the issue, it seems to me, from the councils. Was that they would go over there and nobody would be there, so.
I think if you take a look at how they were last year to today, they've gotten a lot better.
Yeah, well, I'm sure they have. Could be getting worse.
I think it's made a big
Well, you
difference.
can't get,
But I think it's made
Yeah,
a
but I
big
think-
difference because Mr. Trainee and Ms. Temboski have been going to the meetings. I think that the board has, and the office manager have been more responsive because you're.
We had a very frank discussion about expectations.
Yes.
And school board members and superintendent periodically, I know when I was on the
sometimes we have a school
the
board member
superintendent
show
all
up.
the time.
We've never had the superintendent show up,
Yeah.
and the
That
mayor
was just
doesn't
Carol.
send anybody to the meetings. Although the last mayor would
I'll
have.
still go.
I appreciate that. What I'd like us to do is, about 3 times a year, I'd like us to have a meeting with the directors, so we can show, here in this room, so we can show them we're concerned about what they're doing, so we can get feedback.
So we could
So
show
we-
that by going to their meeting.
But if we've got community councils that don't exist, I want to figure out how we address that. Because we give them $85,000 a year to reach out, but if we've got 1 or 2 that aren't meeting, I want to see how we can collapse them down or reinvigorate them,
Yep, I agree.
or reduce the amount of money we're giving them.
And Daryl's going to give
I'm
you
sure
a
they'd much
report
rather
on
do the other.
what the status is of all
Daryl's
those community
still
councils.
get with us on that, and Barbara and Amy. I want to know which
Daryl,
ones
thank you.
aren't existing anymore.
Doing the work on this stuff.
On this?
No. I know you did the work.
No, I didn't do anything.
No, I know, but in terms of community council stuff, in terms of bylaws.
Well, this is in the budget right now, so we're not going to take any action because it'll come in front of the body for action. I just wanted to let you know where we're at on this thing.
Great.
We're not going for an increase of any kind.
So, and that would be my request if, I don't think you have to have a motion or
No, you
any, you just have to give me direction to proceed with the
Direction is
contract.
please proceed.
Okay, we will do so. That's what I
Great
wanted
job.
to make sure, get your direction to proceed. We'll go forward and get the contract signed. I think one of the changes that Daryl Hess and I made several years ago when we both started was that the Federation is required to contact the municipality to ask us to renew the contract next year. And prior to that, I think the first year that Daryl and I were in office, they contacted us like December 15th and said, we want a contract for January 1st and we need the money January 1st. And, you know, things just don't operate that fast around here. You know, we needed to draft the contract, get a purchase order and a purchase requisition, and get it signed and get it before the assembly. And I don't think it got done until probably about the end of January, which was really pretty quick, but we switched and put the burden on them to contact us by October 1st. And then we committed to having it before the assembly in December. So that's what we're trying to do.
So all that work that was done last year is paying dividends in terms of this was a lot easier, I suspect, than last time.
Well,
Plus,
I
there was a
think-
controversy on the Federation board last time.
Right, I think Daryl and I have put a lot of work into it over the last 2 years, yes.
I think what happened too helped was Amy and I go into the Federation monthly meeting and tell them, this is what you're gonna get. It's not gonna increase. You're lucky you got this money. So, this is reality.
I understand. And you know,
Amy has a polite way of saying it.
they started
Well,
out
like
as a
mine.
mailing service, and they probably still are doing a lot of mailing, but I hope they're trying to move away from it as best they can in terms of email.
I think mostly
they're trying
they would argue that they are probably doing much more communication by email. In fact, they're discouraging mailing. And my understanding, the way it works, and some of you who might be more involved than I might know better, they'll allow certain community councils to do a mailing like once every 2 or 3 years, because the $15,000 budget for mailing, it probably only covers 2 community councils. So most of the community councils, and I'm on their listserv, so I get a notice of when, like, for example, the transportation network companies. So when the public hearing is coming up, I'll get a notice from the community council that says transportation network companies public hearing on this date. Or other times when the clerk's office sends out a press release, like that we're looking for election workers, I'll get a notice from the community council in a couple of days that says, clerk's office is looking for election workers, click here to see the press release. And then they do the same like with the Turnagain Community Council meetings. So I get almost everything from them via email, and I think my understanding is that they try to do that with all of the community councils and all of the assembly public meetings and public notices. And I don't know if you know something different.
Anything, Daryl?
No, I think you're correct. One of the things the Federation does, though, is allow community councils that want to do their own mailings to use their permit, which saves them a lot of money. And I know Fairview, we did multiple mailings that the council funded themselves using the Federation's permit. And it's a lot less expensive to use that permit than to stamp them all.
Anything?
Well, the only thing I would say is I'm still hearing from my councils that they're having difficulty accessing their emailing lists. The FCC won't hand them over, and Mark is not giving them access.
The next meeting we have is next month with them. Let's get them. Let's put pressure on them to make sure.
Because-
And the problem is that people that there, the board of directors
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
they need to understand they're in charge of the Federation.
Well, and
Yeah.
the council's perspective is those are their lists.
Yes.
The FCC's nice,
should
they
have-
make,
they should
they
have
have them,
keep from-
they're made, but when the officers change and people leave, maybe that person who originally handed over the list doesn't have it anymore. And so, Mark will control the message and send it out for them. But when they're asking to have their own list so they can send out their own stuff,
Yeah.
the answer has been silent, essentially.
Well, let's talk to them.
So,
Yeah,
That's
the
their
members
frustration.
should have access to the membership, it seems to me.
Especially, even if it's just the community council president,
Well, I think-
or the secretary.
But I've got one community council where the president winked out of existence, and they've still got money in the bank, but no way to reach the money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that is a really good issue to look into, because, you know, what Merrill Akers brought up at the last meeting, where a council wants to, like, members want to call a meeting without the president, well then they should be able to go to the federation just should send it out. I think that would be acceptable, but I still think that I have to agree with you is that list and the actual names on the list, you know, maybe it's gonna look like gobbledygook. I mean, if it's some bgnox@alaska.net, they might not know whose it is, but at least I still think that information belongs to the council, not the federation.
That's what I
Do
thought.
too.
So-
But then again, are you getting into, do the membership give up their name and address to the council with full understanding that it could be made available to anybody on the assembly or on the council or, yeah, a member of the council?
Well, I think what Ms. Dombrowski's talking about
This
is
is, yeah.
is a new officer wanting the data.
Yes.
And I think that new officer is absolutely entitled to that data.
Yeah.
But whether or not a member is entitled to it, I guess we'll wait until that issue comes up.
If somebody wants to disband a community council or have a meeting for various purposes that the president doesn't support, can they withhold it from?
Well, I think the Federation has to send out that notice. I don't know that they
I don't know that anybody
necessarily.
can go to the Federation and have them do it except the president or something, I don't know. Or except an identified person by each council.
I think
Otherwise, we're going to be in trouble.
I think what Ms. Jones is saying, and this is a great point I never thought of, is if somebody wants to call a special meeting, maybe
Right.
that should be an exception. Normally, you have a designated person, only the president or vice president can ask for an email to be sent out. But if a member or members wants to call a special meeting, and there are provisions in the bylaw for calling it, then perhaps any member can request that that notice be sent out. I would like to call a special meeting of the council. Who will support me in this? Here's my email or my phone number, contact me.
Right.
I mean, I think there's a way to do that. You protect the privacy of the information, but you allow special meetings to be called.
Daryl, could you look into the bylaws and the draft bylaws, just see if we've got a mechanism built in there to do that? This is all. If you would.
You know, and my argument is I think that mechanism is in the bylaws, and what I think Merrill was saying was it was a petition of 10 people. But what I think the mechanics of it that probably aren't in the bylaws is that the Federation has to send the notice. And that's something that either you can tell them at the delegates meeting or we can direct them through the agreement.
Because you don't want to put it in the bylaws. You can't, community councils through their bylaws can't direct a separate nonprofit in what they do, but the Federation board can direct. Okay.
We'll talk to the board. We'll talk to the board and get back to you. It's odd how this boils down, Mr. Steele, to one community council in your area, I think, sir.
Yes. But that's okay. You've got to test the limits, otherwise how would you know how the system works?
We've got a great community
That's
council.
what I say every assembly meeting.
Anything else? Then we're done meeting.